So, you know, just collaborating with people, trying to make it work somehow.
How often do you do these master classes?
Once in a while, not too often really. Yeah. So,
so if you want like a warmer sound or a brighter sound, that's really all these knobs do.
okay. Yeah,
yeah,
so
this
the
is
Beatles didn't
everything
do
you'll
music
need.
either.
All right.
Our partner producer did.
So this is definitely something to consider.
And I was going to also mention that
Yeah,
in
no, I
rock,
think
there's not a lot of reading and writing music. So you have blues and Spanish and rock, where theory and reading and writing is. Now you can't imagine Keith Richards walking into Mick Jagger and saying, well, here's the sheet music to satisfaction.
270.
That's not
Whereas over there, you can just get
So,
get a bass for it's
nonetheless,
maybe like $3.99.
Right.
You don't get the
kind of like the classic.
Yeah, we don't have all the other stuff yet.
Yeah, exactly. So this is definitely
Listen
awesome. This is pretty cool too.
Well, I
If you
would
want an
imagine
electric
that
guitar
100
instead of
years
bass.
from now,
It's basically the same exact thing. It comes with all the same
Beatles
stuff.
will be
But guitar amp and a guitar instead of
revered
bass.
sort of like the way
Okay.
Bach, Beethoven, and Mozart are revered.
This is one Uncle David plays, and this one Uncle Steve plays.
And
You like more
I
one Uncle
just think
Steve
that
plays?
the cultural melting
So the
pot
electric guitar
that is
instead of
America
bass.
has,
Yeah, this is a little bit cheaper.
has spawned a lot of very nice forms of music.
He's got uncles that have a band.
Oh, okay, I gotcha. That's cool.
Blues,
He's
and
seen
rock.
some stuff.
Right here in the center.
All right.
That's pretty
Well,
cool.
thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem.
Come on,
Not
let's
that
get
other
your
companies
brother.
haven't, I mean,
Bye.
when you hear,
Thank
Have a
you.
good one.
you hear something like, you know,
So, I gotta steal one of these tone arms, but I really don't want to.
Just the arm.
you hear these beautiful, you know, Latin jazz expressions. That, sure, not all.
No, I mean, I brought the lot.
Oh, okay.
America has created jazz and blues and rock.
I just want, like, I don't want to ruin this messy together.
This big, this massive culture. None of that music, like jazz is the one where that does have a lot of theory involved. But the blues so, and then, you know, your question, I think, was is theory important? Well, I think it's, I mean, as a guy who spent my life playing guitar, I know theory in and out. So, but it helps me appreciate forms of music that weren't played by music theory. But I see that a lot of really, really good players don't use much theory. Like I've been working a little bit with the Weasel Zappa. Has anybody heard that guy?
Yeah.
Weasel Zappa. Well,
Great.
Weasel Zappa, he doesn't read and write music. His father did. You probably know that Frank Zappa was one of the only musicians, rock musicians, that sort of straddled the line between the classical and rock world by scoring out his compositions and actually using conductors and treating his band kind of like it was a little orchestra instead of a rock band. But I was recently doing one of these master classes with Weasel Zappa. The two of us were doing it like side by side, like at the same time. And well, somebody asked Weasel, they were like, "Man, you're so good. You know, how do you do this? How do you do what you do?" And the guy's like, "You must get the idea, and then you're so good you can just play the idea. Like you think." The guy's thinking that Weasel's thinking a musical thought and then replicating the musical thought with his fingers, which is what I try to do. How many people try to do that? Isn't that sort of like the goal? Like you want to be able to play what you think, so you can sing with your guitar, so you can get your ideas across. Basically, is with a lot. But so this guy asked Weasel this question, and Weasel's like, "No, I don't do it like that at all." Because I just start playing. I don't even know what it's going to sound like, and I just mold the play as I'm going. So then he gives an example. He asked me to play some chords with him. And I was just playing. He said, "Play this chord, play that chord." Now, I don't have anybody here playing chords with me, but I can play the string. His Weasel's like, "Okay, play an A note." I'll say. He goes, "Well, you know, you can play a note against this A note." And a lot of people will tell you that some of these are quote unquote wrong. Like, that's wrong. You can't play that one. That's wrong. You can't play that one. That's wrong. So, but he's like, well, sort of mold the clay on it and make it right. Like, so suddenly this note that was wrong doesn't really have to be wrong anymore, does it? And it's like, well, what if I play the other note that they're telling you is wrong? That's wrong, but you don't play that one. That's bad. But, well, you play both notes that are wrong. Well, they're not so wrong if you, according to Weasel's that, then I think he's right. But there isn't really such thing as a wrong note. And that people that are too beginning music theorists, they often get hung up on, oh, that's not right. You shouldn't play that chord there. It should be this chord instead of that chord, or that note doesn't fit into this scale or key. It should be this note or that note. Well, that's only the beginning of music theory. When you get to really understand music theory, you understand that theory is only a system of labeling things. And things are good or bad regardless of how they're labeled or whether they're labeled or not. And if different cultures label different things in different ways. I mean, if you're over in India, they have double the number of notes we have. So most of the notes, half of the notes they get sound terrible to us, but we're not used to hearing them. But over there, it's just another note. So our theory totally doesn't do a darn thing to analyze their music. Half of their music goes straight out of our system of music theory. So there is no, that's my take on theory, is that I use it, I like it, I recognize that a lot of really great music has nothing to do with it at all. And I was going to play a Paul McCartney song. So Paul McCartney has this beautiful song called Yesterday. And
Scrambled egg.
Scrambled Eggs. And back when the Beatles were essentially a boy band, you know, when the Beatles, when you couldn't even hear them play because the girls were screaming so much, and they were a boy band. They were wearing this coordinated outfits with the coordinated hair, and they sang about love, and it didn't even matter whether you could hear the Beatles or not, because they were more of a sort of a sensation than a musical experience. But then Paul McCartney got on the piano by himself and sang the song Yesterday. And suddenly the girls shut up for just 3 minutes and listened to the Beatles. And ever since then, that was sort of a turning point for the Beatles when they realized that they could actually play music that people would listen to if they, in a certain context. So this was like the first, I'm not going to say the first serious Beatles song, but certainly it could possibly be the first serious Beatles song. I'll arrange this song a little closer.
delay reverb?
Actually, I'm playing to what's called a fractal XFX2. Has anyone
Oh,
ever heard of that?
okay, yeah, I've heard of it.
Well, it's a pretty spiffy little unit. In fact, why don't you go come and have a look if you'd like to. It's pretty
I'd
cool.
like to check it out.
Well, then look at this thing.
It's like an amp modeler and
Yeah, it's, this is the unit right here. That is just, it's in this little rack. This big foot controller is what's controlling it, and the sound I had for yesterday, actually I had a said yesterday. So it's a very complex, beautiful sound crafted just for this one song. Now you can do a lot of different things with this. So like for instance, has anyone ever heard the song Cathedral by Van Halen? I got a sound for that right here. It has what's called the cascade delay. Where you have this kind of delay like that, so he would use this sound. It's like a volume pedal, but you're using it. You're using your hand. Because this sort of conjures an image of like the cathedral. So I got a bunch of real neat sounds in here, and the way you program it is you hook a laptop up to it. Well, you can program it right on the face of the unit, but the way I do it is I hook up my MacBook Pro to it, and then it has a program that appears on the screen, and you can program it. It's very deep what you can do with it. It sounds like amps. Like I kind of have.
Can you like download signature sounds from musicians to it?
You sure can, yeah. People share programs. What's so great about this thing is that while I was doing some recording, I've got a lot of tube amps. I got Marshalls, Mesas, vintage Fenders, all kinds of amps. I was recording recently, and I was like, first I was using the amps. Using the amps. Then that said, for some reason I recorded the track for this. I was like, hey, wait a minute. Honestly, it sounds just like the amp, except that when I come back to it later to punch in, I don't have to worry about repositioning the microphone exactly the same. I don't have to worry about what if the tubes are a little bit older and it sounds a little bit different, because it's exactly the same. So like, I was recently recording, yeah, this is a rhythm guitar sound that I had. Doesn't that sound like this little tube amp? I mean, it really does.
So this thing goes really gets you close to the way the thing sounds.
That's totally freaking an authentic sounding in my opinion for just a small 8-inch speaker old tube amp. I've got a 1958 Silvertone that I was using for that track. I decided to use this instead after having recorded both just for the convenience. If I ever wanted to just pop that sound up and to redo the part, it's exactly the same. And you can like change the tubes in the amp. You can put a different microphone on the amp. You can change the proximity of the microphone to the amp.
So all that's already built in, and you
Well,
can
it's
just
part
take a
of the
Shure
program.
57 and.
Oh, you can do a Norman mic. You can do a Shure mic. You can do a Sennheiser 421 mic. You can do, it's got hundreds of mics, hundreds of cabinets, hundreds of amps, all kinds of effects.
What do you think of the pod equipment?
I think this is way too Norman mic. You can do a Shure mic. You can do a Sennheiser 421 mic. It's got hundreds of mics, hundreds of cabinets, hundreds of amps, all kinds of effects.
What do you think of the pod equipment?
I think this is way better than the pod.
Right.
The pod is good.
Pod's good for this price.
Yeah. I mean, the pod was like the thing that started all this. It was the original amp pod. And this is kind of like, in my opinion, now Michael's got a system that he likes better than this, similar to this. I like this system. I'm sure it's the guitar and the system. I got an endorsement deal, so I don't know exactly how much they run, but they're like thousands of dollars. This is no, you don't. Like you don't even need one pedal, but the thing is, you can hook up more pedals. So
those are all volume pedals?
no, actually,
Are they controlling the effect?
well, I've got this via volume pedal, and I've got this one. Not working right now. That's a lot better. For some reason, I think this one's but you have up to 5 expression pedals, and you have a number of other just regular foot switches, and it's this thing called the MFC one foot controller, which is so cool because you see how, like, you ever try to use something like a pod, for instance, in a bright outdoor sunlit day? You look down, you can't see anything. That right there looks exactly like that, no matter how much, no matter where you are. If you're bright, full sunlight, it looks exactly the same as if you're in a dark club or a medium lit stage, because the display is light sensitive. It gets brighter or darker according to how much light goes on. Oh my God! I mean, if you depend on this stuff, you really need that sort of feature. Another really awesome feature is you may notice there's only one wire coming off this thing. It's an Ethernet cable. That Ethernet cable both powers it and runs all the MIDI data back and forth. So yeah, that's it. One cable connects it to a thing. So when I fly to a gig, I got this tiny little rack that's put under my seat in the airplane. Just goes underneath, and boom, I'm done. And I don't even need an amp. You know?
Did Tom Schultz get out of business altogether or
I don't know, but when he came out with that rock band, that's where he rocked it.
I found it.
Excellent Honor? An excellent Honor? Oh my God, it's so good. If you're looking at this thing going for eBay right now, like, the funny thing is with the Ravens band, this is what I use. But I wanted to get a rock band as sort of a standby. I bought one to buy a rock. You can't get the blue wax to sale card, you know, and that sounds tremendously better than. Yeah.
I think I could get a better deal on that.
So yeah, the Rockman X100, it has a tremendously better sound and more features than several rock bands that are available today. And they're going for like $260.
Yeah, I had one years ago that I had to sell at the grocery. I always wished I had one. I was at a used guitar place. They had them. I asked them if they had one. They had going back and find it.
Actually, you get all the sound that
Oh yeah, well that was the first.
Paul Marshall sustained and all that.
Yeah, because he came out saying the worst way that you can make a guitar sound is to put a amplifier. So he said he was doing some recording on like every
No,
Because he wasn't in the
this is, question of the whammy bar here. This is not a Floyd Rose, this is the Paul Reed Smith whammy bar that comes on the guitar. What's kind of cool about it is there is no locking knot like on the Floyd Rose, and the jar stays in one place while it's classic. It's pretty good. It's not always perfect, but it's pretty good. Like for instance, let's see something here. They're gonna play you guys a rock song. It's a factory situation.
This might get Dave.
Tell you what, I will answer that question with where, you needed that track? By the way, this song is called Shred Planet. It's for my CD up there. Zen Shred Zen.
Yeah.
song is called Treasure Planet, and it is available on one of my CDs. It's up there on the table. Yeah, so let's see if the guitar stayed in tune after all that Wham Bar stuff. Not bad. Yeah, so the Wham Bar does stay in tune pretty well on a power synth guitar, despite all that crazy chirping and dive bombing and harmonic morphing and all that stuff I was saying. I want to go over a couple of things in this song. This song has got, and I'm going to answer your question. Somebody asked a question about modes of Indigo. I'll answer that in a second. So the song Shred Planet has a number of techniques I want to sort of just go over with you. And there are a number of interesting harmonic techniques. We'll start with those. The first technique that I did is what I call a harmonic morph, where you touch a note and it turns into a harmonic. So the first thing we have is just an A power chord. But if you touch a note lightly 12 frets higher than the note itself, it will turn it into a harmonic. So I said that what I did there was I traced my finger across the shape of the chord, and it makes it morph into a harmonic chord. So I go. And it's just a kind of a fancy little thing to do, which is kind of fun. No. Well, the thing is, the only reason I traced it is because the chord has several frets it goes on. If I played a single note, just touch 12 frets above the note directly on the fret, and it'll make it turn into a harmonic one octave higher if you do that. No, you can do it more than once. Like I did another harmonic morph where I did it twice on the same string. I went down the bar. So I'm doing diving it down. You see, I turned it into a harmonic an octave higher on the 12th, then another octave higher than that on the 5th. So there's a couple things. Then there's another technique I did where I hit a note. So I'm hitting a note, and I'm double morphing it with a different technique called a harp harmonic. A harp harmonic is when you literally kick behind, you touch the activation point of the string, which is called a node, and you pick behind that. So you're hitting a note. And it's like I'm really doing an octave higher. Instead of that, I'm activating that on the same string, and it's a very exciting sound to be able to go hit a note, then move that note an octave higher, then another octave higher after that, just by doing that. And another of these harmonic techniques that I did in the song, one is called a harmonic cascade. When what you do is, yeah?
So I really want to learn that. What are some tips you have?
The harmonic cascade? Okay, well, one way to do a harmonic cascade is to simply do a repeated figure with the left hand. And then lightly trace your finger down on the sweet spot like this. So that creates the harmonic cascade. Now another thing that I did was called a technique that I've come up with myself called the harmonic porcupine, which is something that I wrote about in Guitar Player magazine a few years ago. If you put your finger on the 12th fret, it turns any harmonic you hit on the 7th or 5th fret, any note, into a harmonic. Then, of course, this type of a technique, in the song I combine the two techniques. So you have this kind of combining of those two techniques. Then the harmonic porcupine technique can actually be done in different ways as well. Put your finger on the 9th fret. You get this freaky, kind of alien sounding stuff. You can do it if that's your bag. You can do that.
You put your finger on your right?
Very lightly.
You're not.
No, I'm doing very lightly, and the nice thing about this will work whether or not you have distortion. But, there's a lot of neat stuff you can get with that technique. So those are some of the harmonic techniques in the song Shred Flat. I think we're almost out of time. I don't want to encroach on any time here. So let me check the time and let's see if I have time to answer your mode question. Okay, so you asked, this gentleman wanted to know what's the best way to learn modes? Should you do it with patterns? To tell you the truth, I don't really go with either method as the best way of learning modes. The best way to learn a mode is to first become familiar with the major scale itself, which I think we all know is the do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, that scale. So if you know what a major scale is, well then you can play that major scale by doing intervals, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. Or you could do it by knowing what is called a key signature. Now, who knows what a key signature is? What's it?
It's the flats and sharps that make up the...
Right, the flats and... So every major scale has a unique subset of notes called a key signature, which is the sharps or flats in the scale. There's only one that has no sharps or flats. Who knows what that one is? C. C has no sharps or flats. Every other major scale has at least some sharps or flats. So if you know the names of the modes and the order they come in, these are the Greek modes, which are taken from regions in the Mediterranean area, such as Ionia, Dorian, Phrygia, like Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian are the names of the modes. And if you know that that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then you can simply say, okay, I'm in C major, and I know that C, D, E. E is the third note in C major. So if I play C major, but I play more E than C, then suddenly, I don't sound like do, re, mi anymore. I sound kind of Spanish, which is what Phrygian sounds like. So by re-emphasizing, by over-emphasizing a note in a mode, in a scale, you can then switch modes simply by knowing the names of the notes on the fretboard and how to play a major scale. You don't have to have patterns or intervals because you're playing a set of note names and you're accentuating a certain note within that set of note names, which enables you to simply play any mode you want wherever you want.
So you can play in C and play all those modes in
Yeah.
key of C, starting with the second or the
Yeah,
third.
like if I wanted to play the Lydian mode in the key of C, do you know what that one would be?
Be the third.
No, the third is the Phrygian mode. The fourth, so that would be what note in C? F. So if I play the F, if I start playing C but I start on F instead of C, then I would have this. F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. See that F sounds kind of a little spooky because really, if we were in F, you're supposed to play B flat to play major, but no, it's not B flat anymore, it's D. Well, you could play it over a C chord, but it's not really what people do over a C chord because it'd be more likely that if somebody were to be in the key of, well, let's say you had the thing about a mode is it can be a scale, but what people don't really realize about modes is that they are probably largely chord progressions more than scales. So that why do you play a mode? Because some other guy is playing a chord progression that sort of demands that you play this mode. Do you see what I mean? So let's say somebody was playing what's called a Lydian chord progression. Or perhaps you played the chord F, right? Maybe F, G, E minor, F, like Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time. Well, that's going to be an Lydian progression. Then, of course, in that case, then that would sound good to play it then. But if I was just playing a C chord, it would sound kind of silly to play an F Lydian mode, because why would you do that? Because there's not even an F note in a C chord. C is C, E, G, and there is no F note in there. So you wouldn't do that. But does that sort of answer your question? Get good at the major scales, real good at them. Learn your key signatures, learn your mode names, and if you understand the underlying structure, it's much easier than memorizing a zillion patterns, because, face it, there's 15 major keys, and there's 7 ways of doing each one with modes. That makes, I think, 100 and, what is that? It's a lot, it's over 100 different possibilities. You don't want to memorize 100 or even 10 or 12 different fingerings, when all you have to do is know how to play the major scale and know the theory behind it to play the mode.
I learned a interesting way to know the order of the modes. I don't particularly like modes a lot.
That's great.
Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian.
Awesome.
Dixon.
Very cool. Okay, I think we're out of time. Michael's coming up here in 3 minutes, and let me just say something about this guy. He is so incredibly awesome. Who here has heard Michael play before? Anybody? Yeah. Well, he's not only a very fast, clear guitarist, but he's a brilliant composer and just a really nice guy. So when he comes out here, I'm sure you'll give him a warm welcome, and he's just, well, he'll speak for himself. Anyway,
Thanks.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll go watch a Ravens game.
So that the whammy bar on your PRS, is that a floating bridge where you?
Yes, it's a floating bridge. That one is a floating bridge. I locked down the whammy bar. Both of them that I have are floating bridge whammy bars on these guitars. I did lock down
What's
the
interesting, it doesn't have a lock on the nut. There's another lock.
no lock on the nut. That's why I was demonstrating. It stays in tune. It is a floating bridge whammy bar that stays in tune without a lock on the nut.
Very good.
Yeah, it's not more convenient with the string changing stuff. By the way, I'll see you guys at the merch table after this. I got books, CDs, all kinds of good stuff.
We have a William Rose guitar with tunes on it, and it takes speed little things, the ones with the 2 glass things. That's the only way to do it. PRS must have a very interesting memory bar system, because you don't have to make a whole lot of tuning.
Well, what they've done is they've created, on a Gibson guitar, the headstock goes like that to create tension on the strings. On a Stratocaster, it's straight. On the PRS, it's a straight headstock, so there's no pull on the string. And it's the lubricant, the nut is big. Whole step, half step. Or you could do it by knowing what is called a key signature.
His problem.
Now, who knows what a key signature is?
He couldn't move right.
The flats and sharps.
Right, the flats and, so every major scale has a unique subset of notes called a key signature, which is the sharps or flats in the scale. There's only one that has no sharps or flats. Who knows what that one is? C. C has no sharps or flats. Every other major scale has at least some sharps or flats. So if you know the names of the modes, in the order they come in. These are the Greek modes, which are taken from regions in the Mediterranean area, such as Ionia, Dorian, Phrygia, like Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian are the names of the modes. And if you know that that goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then you can simply say, okay, I'm in C major, and I know that C, D, E. E is the third note in C major. So if I play C major, but I play more E than C, then suddenly I don't sound like do, re, mi anymore. I sound kind of Spanish, which is what Phrygian sounds like. So by re-emphasizing, by over-emphasizing a note in a mode, in a scale, you can then switch modes simply by knowing the names of the notes on the fretboard and how to play a major scale. You don't have to have patterns or intervals because you're playing a set of note names and you're accentuating a certain note within that set of note names, which enables you to simply play any mode you want wherever you want.
So you can play in C, like all those modes in
Yeah.
key of C, starting with the second and the
Yeah,
third.
like if I wanted to play the Lydian mode in the key of C, do you know what that one would be? No, the third is the Phrygian mode. The fourth, so that would be what note in C? F. So if I play the F, if I start playing C but I start on F instead of C, then I would have this. F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. So that F sounds kind of a little spooky because really, if we were in F, you're supposed to play B flat to play major, but no, it's not B flat anymore, it's D.
Now you can play that over a C chord.
Well, you could play it over a C chord, but it's not really what people do over a C chord because it'd be more likely that if somebody were to be in the key of, well, let's say you had the thing about a mode is it can be a scale, but what people don't really realize about modes is that they are probably largely chord progressions more than scales. So that why do you play a mode? Because some other guy is playing a chord progression that sort of demands that you play this mode. You see what I mean? So let's say somebody was playing what's called a Lydian chord progression, or perhaps you played the chord F, right? Maybe F, G, E minor, F, like Cyndi Lauper's Time After Time. Well, that's going to be an Lydian progression then, of course, in that case. Then that would sound good to play it then, but if I was just playing a C chord, it would sound kind of silly to play an F Lydian mode, because why would you do that? Because there's not even an F note in a C chord. C is C, E, G, and there is no F note in there. So you wouldn't do that. But, does that sort of answer your question? Get good at the major scales, real good at them, learn your key signatures, learn your mode names, and if you understand the underlying structure, it's much easier than memorizing a zillion patterns because, face it, there's 15 major keys and there's 7 ways of doing each one with modes. That makes, I think, 100 and, what is that? It's a lot, it's over 100 different possibilities. You don't want to memorize 100 or even 10 or 12 different fingerings when all you have to do is know how to play the major scale and know the theory behind it to play the mode.
I learned an interesting way to know the order of the modes. I don't particularly like modes a lot.
That's great.
Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian.
Awesome. Very cool. Okay, I think we're out of time. Michael's coming up here in 3 minutes, and let me just say something about this guy. He is so incredibly awesome. Who here has heard Michael play before? Anybody? Yeah. Well, he's not only a very fast, clear guitarist, but he's a brilliant composer and just a really nice guy. So when he comes out here, I'm sure you'll give him a warm welcome, and he's just, well, he'll speak for himself. Anyway,
Thanks.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll go watch a Ravens.
So that your whammy bar and your PRS, is that a float floating bridge where you?
Yes, it's a floating bridge. That one is a floating bridge. I locked down the whammy bar. Both of them that I have are floating bridge whammy bars. I did lock down.
Well, what's interesting, doesn't have a lock on the nut. There's another lock.
No lock on the nut. That's what I was demonstrating. It stays in tune. It is a floating bridge whammy bar that stays in tune without a lock on the nut.
Very good, very good.
Yeah, it's not more convenient with the string thing. By the way, I'll see you guys at the merch table after this. I got books, CDs, all kinds of stuff.
We have a Floyd Rose guitar with no strings on top. And it takes speed, little strings, and one cheap bass.
Hey, John.
The car, I was like,
Hey, John.
I'd let you get a couple. Okay.
You want that?
Very interesting memory bar system. Because you don't have to hang one